Good morning and welcome to One Baha'i, that regular show where I just share a few personal thoughts about the Baha'i faith. Nothing official, just me, one individual, one Baha'i. This morning, I want to look at The Call of the Divine Beloved, a marvelous book, a selection of pieces by Baha'u'llah. When this new translation came out of the Seven Valleys and the Four Valleys, which are included in this book, I realized that I had been neglecting the Four Valleys for a number of years. They're wonderful, but Baha'u'llah has written so much, it's difficult to keep up with all of it. So you read something, it's not necessarily relevant to your life at that moment, and you don't read it for a little while, but later on you come back to it, and you see more of its relevance. That's what's happened with me with the Four Valleys. Now, as you may know, the book, The Four Valleys, which is on page 83 in here, it's a very short piece. It's a letter to an individual. And it is sort of divided into 5 pieces, or 5 parts, maybe even 6. The introduction, the Four Valleys, and then the outro. It begins in a very stylistic letter writing style of Baha'u'llah's time. In essence, he sounds like a Jewish mother. You never write, you never call. What have I done to offend you? It's really quite wonderful. But he takes it to a higher level than the style of the day. He doesn't just moan and whinge and complain. No, he reminds us that this is what he hasn't declared his mission yet, so he's not saying that this is God, but he's reminding us that we have neglected God. This is as if God is writing us saying, you never write. What have I done? Wow, what's going on? And we can ask ourselves, have we neglected God? And honestly, the answer is going to be yes, we have. But at the end of that introduction, he makes an interesting point, which I find very useful for us today. Oh, and by the way, then he goes into the Four Valleys. Then he goes into the end piece in which he says, I've just gotten a letter from you. Life is good. But at the end of the introduction, there's a short little piece that I find very relevant to my life today. I'm just going to read pieces of it. He says, I hear that thou hast journeyed to Tabríz and Tiflis to engage in debate and instruction. All right, so Baha'u'llah is telling us that this man is a teacher. He is trying to help people move closer to God. In the next paragraph, he writes, O my eminent friend, they that seek to ascend to the heaven of mystic wayfaring are of 4 kinds only. And then he proceeds to describe the 4 different types, the 4 valleys, the 4 methods by which people seek truth. So why is that interesting? Why does Baha'u'llah do this in the first place? Well, I think, for one thing, he wants to help us become more effective teachers. He wants this man to become a more effective teacher. So for me, when I encounter someone who is seeking, now this is only for people who are looking, it's not for everybody, but for people who are, how does he say it? Seeking to attend to the heaven of mystic wayfaring. For people who are open to the Baha'i faith, people who are interested in learning more, there's only 4 types. And Baha'u'llah describes each of them, what their interests are, what the limitations of each path are, if there are them. And this is a tool that I can use in my teaching work. the example that he gives in the first valley, he says, this is the, if wayfarers be among them that seek after the sanctuary of the desired one, this plain pertaineth to the self, but the self which is intended is the self of God that pervadeth all his laws. And he begins to describe what that wayfarer looks like. So now if I'm engaged in teaching, if I recognize the signs of that valley in the questions of the individual, then I know how to approach them. You see, as a school teacher, teachers in school are taught that children learn in different ways. Some learn by listening, some learn by reading, some learn by doing. This is why the Ruhi books have all of them included. Baha'u'llah is telling us that people approach God in 4 different ways. And if we can understand which way they use to approach God, then we can adjust our teaching style and our teaching methods to their needs. After my wife and I recognized that in this book, we reread the 4 valleys with that in mind and began to give examples to ourselves of people that we knew who were in each valley. It's really quite a fascinating exercise, and I would encourage you to read the book and do that. I'll put a link to it in the notes. Right now, we are engaged in a lot of teaching work. And it's an exercise that I want to start doing again because I haven't done it for a few months. I want to write down the names of people I know and experimentally see which valley they relate to. So I just thought I would share that with you today. Please let me know what you think in the comments, and I'd love to hear your insights into this. It's a fascinating little volume. It's only like 15, 20 pages, the 4 valleys. Very short. So thank you very much for joining. Look forward to hearing your thoughts and your questions. Don't forget to hit the like button. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll talk on Monday.